Hello and welcome to Practically Effective. This is a podcast about effects, props and stunts in various films. And today, I feel like I missed a bit.
You sometimes say by Will and I, but not always. It's not a consistent thing.
Okay, well, Will and I are here. I am Joe. Will is Will. Today we're discussing Iron Man.
Who's not here?
Should I do that again?
You can do it again and then just use whichever one you want.
Alright.
It's the glory of editing.
Or both of them.
You can even just leave everything in. Yeah.
Hello and welcome to Practically Effective. This is a podcast by Will and I about effects, props and stunts in various films. And today we are discussing Iron Man.
If you only use that one,
It's going to sound very
confusing.
What I'll do is I'll use that one, and then you'll say that, and then I'll put in like some like
Flashbacks.
a little flashback. I'll be like 30 seconds earlier. Anyway, so Will, what do you think of Iron Man?
I think it's one of the best Marvel films.
Yeah.
Certainly the best Iron Man film.
It's probably the best standalone Marvel film, I'd say.
Winter Soldier?
That's a good point. That's quite a good one. It's one of the best standalone films.
Certainly one of the best, yeah.
And it is chock full of very special effects.
Very special effects. These effects are very special.
No, they're not. Star Wars Holiday special effects.
Not Star Wars special effects.
No, these are actual good effects.
Yeah, they actually look good.
So, there's a lot of information on this one.
Yeah.
Because it was only released 10 years ago.
Is it the most recent film we've done?
If you're not counting the specials, then yeah.
When did Batman Begins come out?
2005?
Yeah.
This one's 2008. Yeah, we're real modern. Cool and up-to-date people. Oh, we did Guardians of the Galaxy as well.
We're doing this now because Black Panther would have come out 2 weeks before.
Yeah, we like to tie them in. Yeah, we're very, very professional.
Yeah.
Last week, to tie into the actual release day of Black Panther, we did Jason and the Argonauts.
Jason and the Argonauts, yeah.
Because someone asked us to, so...
Yeah. Alright, shall we jump in?
Let's jump right in. I don't know whether this one lends itself to chronological order or not, because there's a lot to say.
You have got lots of notes.
I have a lot of notes. I have pages of notes.
You have the most notes you've ever had.
Do you want me to tell you some things about, like, before the production
yes.
first?
Okay.
So, like, there were some... They've been trying to make this...
Troubled Productions. The return of a much missed segment.
Well, this isn't about the troubles. It's just about the earlier plans that I'm very glad didn't happen.
Mm.
So, they've been trying to make this movie since the 90s, and, like, 3 different studios had the rights for a while before they reverted to Marvel. And there was one plan for it to be produced and star Tom Cruise. Yeah, I don't think that would have worked.
No, that wouldn't have worked.
And there was another one, apparently Nicolas Cage was very interested in the main role of Tony Stark.
Really?
Yes. And then another one, which intrigues me, is apparently Quentin Tarantino was approached to write and direct the movie.
That would have been a very different film.
Very different. I don't know whether it would have been good, necessarily.
I don't think his style lends itself to superheroes.
No.
At least not the sort of modern types of superheroes that we get. I want Nick Cage as Iron Man now.
Alright, I'm sorry that I've ruined this entire podcast.
You've ruined Iron Man for me forever. I've always been thinking, what if Nicolas Cage?
So eventually the rights went back to Marvel,
Yeah.
and they produced it as their first self-financed film. Worst piece of trivia I read on the internet, but I'll slide it in there.
We were just talking about it, and he goes, "That's the worst piece of trivia I've ever read." And now he's announcing it as if he's discovered it all by himself.
Well, I don't discover any of this by myself. I haven't been hiding in the bushes during the filming of Iron Man. I do look on the internet for this stuff. What was I going to say? Yes, during the pre-production they didn't really have much of a script, so a lot of the dialogue was improvised.
Right, I think Robert Downey Jr. does that a lot anyway, to be honest.
In like the pre-production stages, they were focused on the main story and the action that was going to happen, and weren't too focused on what characters were actually going to say. And Jeff Bridges described the whole experience as working on a $200 million student film. And in one of the interviews, they asked Jon Favreau, what did the studio think about all this improvisation you were doing? And he was like, the producer was on set a lot. But I think as they went along and saw that it was going well, they kind of...
Just let them do it.
Yeah, they gained trust in them, I think. But I haven't really got much else to say about pre-production, so should we jump right in? Oh no, there's another thing I want to say. Marvel conducted some focus groups before the movie because they wanted to
ruin everything.
No, they didn't. These focus groups were to remove the public perception that Iron Man was a robot.
Oh,
which apparently a lot of people thought. And actually, there was we watched it. A little short film was produced. A couple of them were.
Yeah.
And they were made like animated shorts with Spider-Man and Tony Stark and the Hulk, and just to kind of show who Iron Man was and what he was about. And they were directed by Tim Miller, who directed
I was not
Deadpool.
aware of those at the time.
No, neither was I. I don't know what they did with them. Did they put them back on the internet back in 2006, 2007? Would anyone have looked at them?
No, Joe, the internet didn't exist in 2006, 2007.
No, I know it did. But would there be enough people using it?
They send them by post to people.
Yep. Yeah, so should we jump in?
Yeah.
Alright, where do you want to jump in? The beginning?
The beginning, yeah.
Alright, so this movie begins with a big old Humvee chase. Well, not chase.
That's not a chase. Oh, they're off to a bad
they're chased
start.
by terrorists.
They're
out
not
of their
chased. Okay.
They're driving in the Humvees.
Yeah.
And then some terrorists come and they
Yeah.
explode.
Well, the terrorists don't explode. Well, maybe some of them do.
Why don't you take this one? I've cocked it up twice now.
They're driving along in their Humvees.
Yep.
And Tony Stark is like, look at me, I'm Tony Stark. And all the soldiers are like,
Look at him, he's Tony Stark.
look at him, he's Tony Stark. Let me take a picture with you. And he's taking a picture with some random guy. And then everyone gets shot and killed and the movie ends.
Well, okay. It was going so well. Everyone gets
That's
shot and
the
killed,
facts.
except Tony Stark, who gets blown up.
Yes, that wouldn't kill you.
No, it lands like 3 feet.
One of his own bombs lands like 3 feet from him.
Yeah.
And because, as we'll get on to later, he's actually a really terrible engineer, it doesn't kill him like it's designed to.
Surely it must have, like,
He's instead
misfired.
fine. Exactly.
Yeah.
You're saying that as if that's an excuse.
Well...
That's shoddy engineering. We'll get on to more of his bad engineering later. He's not off the hook.
So then we jump back into the past, and Tony Stark he's living life, and he's playing in the
Oh, the
casino.
award ceremony.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We get a nice bit of backstory with no effects in it, so we'll skim over
Let's
it.
skim over that.
Then he
Gets awarded the Oscars of business.
gets a business Oscar.
Yeah.
And a reporter comes and tells him he's a bad bloke, and then sleeps with him.
Yep, as you do.
And then
Did we get introduced to his assistant,
Pepper Potts.
who makes a very snide remark about taking out the trash?
Yes, Pepper Potts does take out Tony Stark's rubbish, because apparently he only has one member of staff in his house.
No, but did you not pick up on that?
What?
He's saying that she's the trash. Sometimes I take out the trash.
I
and
never picked
she's
that up.
sewing her out of the
Also
house.
leave this house.
Yeah. See?
Get in this black bag. It's bin day. I'd never picked up on that before.
Also, don't you think that Tony Stark probably has an automated system to take the trash out?
Probably.
You think he does?
He just has an incinerator in the bottom of his mansion. So Tony Stark's mansion, Will,
Yeah.
CGI.
Yeah.
Apparently that point that it's on is a real famous place in Los Angeles when no one's allowed to build there because it's a national park. So they were like, let's just stick Tony Stark's house.
house there, yeah.
Do you like the design of his house? Or does it make you very unnerved that it's just going to fall off the cliff at any moment?
I mean, given the quality of his engineering skills, considering he probably built the house himself, it probably is going to collapse at some point.
We'll get to Iron Man
Like
3.
it's Iron Man 3.
Has he clearly not heard of coastal erosion? Do you think his house was like built inland?
And then the coast just eroded inwards.
And he refuses to move just because he's so full of himself.
What happens next?
He meets up with Rhodey. He goes to his plane real late.
Oh, yes.
And then he gets on the plane.
Yours plane, races the driver.
Oh yes. Do you know that guy? His driver / security guard is the director of the movie.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
John Favreau.
Gets on the plane, flies to Afghanistan.
Then we get back to the first scene again.
Well, no, we've skipped out quite a lot.
Well, what have I missed?
Him demoing that missile.
Oh yeah.
Which is the entire. That's important because they
quite
wanted to build one of those.
Yeah. Sorry, I was. I'm trying to get to the Iron Man stuff because I really want to talk about that. No, you're right. We have skipped over the Jericho missile.
He shoots a missile, which is an interesting effect, but we're not going to talk about it because Joe doesn't want to. So, I guess you'll just have to figure that one out yourselves.
I mean, he shoots a big missile.
It's not that big.
Lots of little missiles come out of it.
Yeah.
And then they explode a lot. And then there's a big old shockwave.
It's basically a cluster bomb, but apparently he gets really big rewards for doing that.
It was the best bomb there ever
Very
was.
old technology.
Also, Robert Downey Jr. improvised that entire speech that he makes before the launch.
Yeah.
Like about this is how
I mean,
America does
having
it.
a bigger stick than the other guy.
That's a different speech.
Oh no. He says, I prefer a weapon you only have to fire once.
That's the speech.
Obviously referring to nuclear weapons, but America had to fire that twice.
They did. And you don't really fire, they kind of just drop one.
Drop them, yeah.
Yeah.
So he's just useless, isn't he? Tony Stark's pathetic. The worst character.
In your own movie.
In your own film. It's Iron Man's film, actually.
Well, Iron Man isn't a robot, we talked about this.
Iron Man is a robot.
You're so confused.
Gets kidnapped by terrorists, remember? There's no way he's getting out of there.
So in your mind, whenever Iron Man shows up, Tony Stark just disappears from the scene.
Yes.
Yes, Will. Whatever you say, Will. And then he gives them one of those whiskey briefcases.
Yeah, it's not really a briefcase, it's quite a large crate.
It's a briefcase, he opens it up and then
it's not a briefcase. It's a big crate. You couldn't carry one of those around in your hand comfortably.
Iron Man could. He's very strong.
It's an Iron Man briefcase.
And then what happens?
Then my favourite line happens. He's speaking to,
Rhodey Rhodes.
Rhodey Rhodes. Sure, we'll call him that from now on. And Rhodey is very just down, serious all the time, you know. Like that, he talks like this.
He doesn't talk like that, but okay.
So, Tony Stark gets in one of the Humvees.
Yep.
And my favourite line happens when Rhodey Rhodes
Yep.
tries to get in the Humvee, and Tony Stark goes, "You can't come in here. This is the Funvee. The Humvee is over there." That's my favourite line of the film.
We haven't really talked about any of the characters.
No.
So what do you think of Rhodey?
I don't really get the relationship between him and Tony Stark.
Well, I think because Tony Stark sells weapons to the military.
Yeah, I know he's the liaison between the military and Stark Industries. I know that.
Yeah.
But I don't get why they're like really, they seem to be like pretty close friends.
They have nothing in common.
I don't see why it's not really a situation where you would get to become friends with that person.
No, I see what you mean, because Rhodey is like, he doesn't like the way Tony Stark lives and acts and just the way he is generally.
And also, like, being the liaison between their company and the military isn't a situation where you would sort of get to personally know the CEO. I
don't know whether now is the time to tell you about Terrence Howard.
Who's Terrence Howard?
He's the guy who plays Rhodey Rhodes.
Okay.
He's a bit mad. I'll give you a quote from the article I read, okay?
Mm-hmm.
About Terryology.
Okay.
It may seem crazy, Will.
Oh no. These sentences always end well.
It may seem crazy.
It's going to be crazy, isn't it?
But he'd gotten hold of this notion that 1 times 1 doesn't equal 1, but 2.
Who?
Terrence Howard. He began writing down this logic in a language of his own devising called Terryology. I'll now read you a quote from Terrence Howard defending this notion that 1 times 1 equals 2.
Mm-hmm.
How can it equal 1? If 1 times 1 equals 1, that means that 2 has no value because 1 times itself has no effect.
What?
1 times 1 equals 2 because the square root of 4 is 2. So what's the square root of 2? It should be 1. But we're told it's 2.
Not what a square root does.
He's gone a bit mad.
What the? This is American education, everyone. He proves that 1 times 1 equals 2, but in a language of his own devising.
Well,
so nobody else can check it or follow along. And he just goes, yeah, look.
He's written it all down in a language of his own devising because he doesn't want anyone to steal it before he can patent it.
Patent it?
He's
Even if it were right, you couldn't patent it.
He's patenting his own brand of logic called Terryology. And apparently he spends up to 17 hours a day cutting little shapes out of plastic and joining them together into hemispheres and using copper wire and magnets and stuff. And apparently these demonstrate his theory.
That 1 times 1 equals 2.
Yeah.
Because he cuts little bits of paper out.
Well, apparently the quote said he loves these models as much as he loves himself and his infant son.
He has a son. Oh, I pity that child.
Terryology, Will.
I was about to say that I quite liked his character, actually, but I'm not going to say that.
I mean, you can like his character without liking the actor.
No, that actor is too bad of a person that it bleeds over onto his character too much.
There you are. 1 times 1 equals 1.
He does. Well,
Let's just clarify. If Terrence Howard's listening. This just made me laugh a lot and then very sad.
It's too depressing.
I'm sorry if I've ruined this episode for you now.
Ruined it now. I mean, I'm aware that people such as this exist, but I tend to just keep it out of my mind.
Alright, where were we? You just sent Terrence Howard to the humdrum.
Yeah. He deserves to be there. Then we have the opening scene.
Yep.
He gets kidnapped by terrorists.
And then we're stuck in a loop because we have to get back to the beginning.
Yep.
So the terrorists take Tony Stark.
Captive, yeah.
And they put him in a big old cave.
They do.
Which was a set, it turns out. A real long set. 150-metre set. And they filled it with air conditioning units to make it real cold. And yes, and then we meet my favourite character.
Yes.
Jensen.
He is the MVP of this film.
Yeah.
I really like him.
He's great. It's a real shame that all these characters have to die.
They die, yeah.
All the mentor characters all die.
That guy, is the first person that you see Tony Stark actually sort of care about or like have.
Yeah, you're right.
Sort of,
yeah.
Any sort of connection to.
Yeah. I really like their little bits in the cave. Because when you first meet him, you think that maybe he's a bit sinister. Yeah. But then, it turns out that he's saved Tony Stark's life.
So I don't get why he's there.
So later on, when the first time Iron Man rocks up in the Middle East, we see them taking a man away from his family.
Yeah.
So presumably they kidnap people to either fight for them or work for them or build weapons for them or
but it's
whatever.
just him. Why? I don't understand why he's there. So were they holding him captive in order to perform surgery on Tony Stark if he needed it and translate for him, or does he just happen to be there and be able to do those things? Presumably they're not intending to maim Tony Stark to the point where he requires a surgeon. So I don't know why you would really get a surgeon in.
I assume they were like, hey, it's Tony Stark, we can get more money to kill him. Oh wait, he's bleeding heavily from the chest. Yes, but get a doctor.
Yes, but no, but they would have had to have had him before then. Because there wouldn't be time to go to raid a village, get a doctor and come back before Tony Stark died.
I don't know. Maybe he's just a helpful guy. Maybe he fixes their boo-boos.
Yeah.
He's their first aid man.
But yeah, that's probably it. They probably captured him a while ago to be their medic.
Yeah. I know he's Tony Stark's main bro.
Yeah.
This is what happens.
Terrorists want him to build one of the missiles that he demoed.
One of the best missiles. Even though they can just buy them, it turns out.
Yeah. Well, they say they want them to build one. But that's because...
Oh, that's just to keep him busy, isn't it?
Yeah. Because they were going to kill him when they get paid.
Okay, can we talk about how stupid the terrorists are?
Well, I mean, of course they're stupid, otherwise they'd win. It's always the case in films that if the villains weren't complete idiots, they would win easily. They should leave at least one guard, probably two guards in the cave at all times, just watching them directly.
They give Tony Stark a large amount of explosives, and they don't expect him to do anything rash with them. And
they don't really have any way of understanding what he's doing, so he could easily... And also, there's one bit where they literally see him testing out the leg of the Iron Man
that's the bit.
And they don't think anything's weird about that. Like, oh, he clearly needs a metal support for his leg to build this missile.
It's the main terrorist guy, and he watches the screen, and Tony Stark wiggles his leg about, and a little...
actuator.
That's the one. An actuator flaps about. And then the guy, he does a grumpy face, and he storms in, and he's like... The great Genghis Khan used the bow and arrow and conquered half the world. Now, Stark weapons are the best. Now, why did I come in here? I reckon he walked in and...
I forgot why he came there. So he just gives a speech.
And then he's like, you have one day to complete my missile. Better not have legs. And then he just leaves. So, what do you think of the two main terrorist characters that we get?
There's the slightly shorter...
The Father Christmas
rotund one. Yeah.
The Father Christmas terrorist.
There's the Paul Blart one.
And then there's the bald, half-faced man, because he gets half his face blown off.
Two-Face.
There's Two-Face. Two-Face and Father Christmas.
Sorry, yeah. I mean, they don't really get very fleshed out characters, really, do they?
Not really.
Like, the Two-Face guy, I think we're supposed to think that he's some sort of terrorist mastermind.
Yeah.
But you never really see much of him.
No. Well, initially they were
I thought we were going to get more of him.
Yeah?
I thought, because the way it's set up makes it sound like you're gradually going to find out more about him throughout the film.
Does he die, though? It's left ambiguous, I think.
Yeah, because at the end, Obadiah uses the thing to paralyze him. Now, you would have thought if he was going to kill him, he would have just killed him there instead of paralyzing him.
But then when he leaves,
they kill all the others.
Clean up here, and they kill all the others.
Yeah.
But... So, initially they had the Mandarin in as the leader of these terrorists. Mm. So I think Jon Favreau was like, well, what we'll do is we'll keep this guy around, and then when we do the Mandarin in the movie, this Two-Face guy can be, the the servant of the Mandarin, and he can be a link back to the first movie.
Because, like, why would you paralyze him just to then immediately kill him? You just kill him.
Well, Obadiah Stane is smug, and he'd want the guy to see.
That's true. He does the same thing with Tony Stark.
He does.
He paralyzes him.
Then does a little speech.
Then does a speech, takes out his power stuff, takes out his battery, takes Tony Stark's batteries out, yeah. And then instead of just being sure, and just killing him there.
Well, he thinks that will kill him.
Yeah, but you'd want to be sure. I would want to be sure.
I don't think he knows about the other arc reactor. I don't think he knows that they've been replaced.
You just be safe. Why take the risk? Why not just shoot him?
I mean, there's no good reason.
There's no good reason not to. And it's like, I gotta be frugal with this multi-billion-pound business. Can't afford a bullet to shoot him with.
Yes.
You don't have any knives.
Anyway, we've done what we do.
Jumped way forward.
Jumped deep into the movie. We go all the way back to Tony Stark and he's
building the missile.
Building his suit.
He's pretending to build a missile. Meanwhile, building something that looks nothing like a missile.
In any way.
How did they not notice? Because there's going to be the components for the suit lying around. And I get that they don't have the suit all as one big thing together.
Yeah.
But it's got like a face mask and leg armor and a chest.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like a missile.
I like the bit where he's got all the designs drawn out on like 5 different pieces of paper. That's quite cool.
Yeah.
Also, he builds himself an arc reactor.
Yeah.
And at no point do they come in and be like, this is not a component of a missile. You've just put this in your chest. Can you focus on the task at hand?
They must notice that because it's in his chest.
Yeah, because one of them actually has a look at it. And he's like, look at that. You've got a little torch in your belly. Tony's just like, it's to help me build missiles at night.
Yeah, so I can see better.
Yeah.
Also, he wants one Jericho missile.
Yep.
And is convinced he will then rule all of Asia, even though when you fire a missile, it's gone.
It's done.
You've only got one.
Also, the assumption that you can make this missile just using all the other missiles.
Yeah, it's an amalgamation of all of his previous missiles.
Yep. Also, Tony Stark's the CEO of the company, right?
This is I was gonna get onto this when I go on a rant about his engineering at some point later. But basically, how much engineering does he actually do?
Yeah.
Because he runs a company.
But he doesn't seem like he really does much company running.
No.
He seems to be more of a wacky inventor than he does of a company boss. I get the impression that Obadiah Stane still does all of the business stuff, and that's why he's so angry at Tony Stark, because he gets all the credit.
Yeah.
He's clearly capable. I just don't think he's living up to his potential.
I don't think he's capable either.
I mean, he builds 3 Iron Man suits.
We'll get on to how shit his Iron Man suits are.
Oh, what?
His Iron Man suits are terrible.
Alright, let's talk the Mark 1 then.
That's the fancy name for the tin can.
That's the fancy name for lots of missiles strapped together to make an Iron Man suit. This is my favourite suit.
Do you think that plan would have worked in real life? I don't mean... Okay, obviously in real life the terrorists would have spotted you doing it.
Yes.
Because they wouldn't be stupid. But assuming that you had built the suit successfully and tried to escape from that base with just that suit, do you think you would have worked? Right. I don't think it would have worked.
Okay, there's a story I heard about a guy, it's nothing to do with superheroes, about a guy who went to rob someone's house and he thought the best way to do it would be in a suit of armour.
Oh, yeah.
Because he wouldn't be recognised and he'd be protected if anyone came at him with a stick or something. So he walks down the road in a suit of armour, making a tremendous racket. He breaks into these people's house. They obviously see him immediately, but he's like, you can't stop me, I'm in a suit of armour. They push him over. He can't stand up, and then they just push a bookshelf on him and call the police.
Oh, amazing.
I don't think that would have worked for the terrorists. They didn't seem to have any bookshelves.
There is a bit that I like, though, where clearly the visibility in the armour is reduced.
Yes.
And you see him trying to memorise the route to get out.
Yes, that's good as well.
Good add-in.
Would a missile be made out of bulletproof material, though?
No. Also, that's very thick metal.
They must be shipping it out in enormous boxes.
But, like, when you look at the suit, there's too many exposed bits.
There's a lot of exposed bits. Also, even if that material is bulletproof, if someone shoots you in the head, that's going to at least deafen you.
It's going to give you a lot of shit, going to shake you off of it.
Yeah. And with, like, machine guns.
Yeah.
I do like, though, that this suit breaks a lot, and it fails a lot. Because there's a bit where his leg the leg joint breaks, and he's like, that's after he's come out of the cave. One of his legs, like, seizes.
Yeah.
He gets his arm lodged in a piece of rocks. Yeah. Like you said, the visibility is awful. but it does the job. And he barely escapes with his life, really, doesn't he?
Yeah.
The flying is just no good at all. But that's why I love it.
I think they added that in at the last minute. Like,
Yeah.
It'd be nice to have a jetpack. Okay.
But yeah, I like it because it's practical. You can roughly see how it works. Not that it would be possible to make one, but you can see like he's got the missile, the bit where he fires a missile off his arm is just there stuck on his arm, and he pulls the bits and pushes the buttons, and he's got the flamethrowers as well. I find it more believable than a suit that basically is the same size as Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
How is he going to fit in there? Let alone fit all his technology.
All the stuff.
Yeah. So I had some notes on how they made it and what they did with it. They built a real suit. It's a practical suit.
Did Robert Downey Jr. actually get in it and walk around?
Yeah. Yeah, he did for some of the shots. And
was it mechanical? Like, what did it have hydraulics in it?
I don't think so.
No.
I think it was just a suit.
A suit.
He did all the movements for it, yeah. And they put stuntmen in there occasionally as well. Apparently, if you needed to, you could only wear the top half. And the behind-the-scenes footage of it looks ridiculous. Because there's big, bulky Iron Man top,
And then just
skinny legs, in, like, jogger bottoms.
Yeah.
Anything else to say on the cave?
No. I did notice one of my notes here, I've just got horn written. I don't know what I was referring to.
But some of the suit was digital as well.
Yeah.
So they mixed between the practical stuff and the digital stuff. And then for the digital stuff, they did motion capture. Some of which John Favreau did, I think, the director. He was very proud of the big punch that Iron Man does because he did the mocap for that. So yeah, it's a real blend. Okay, if Jensen hadn't been killed, which we've glossed over, what was the plan there?
I assume that Jensen was supposed to like hop on his back and then fly away.
Jensen was supposed to follow him out, right?
Jensen would ride Iron Man to freedom.
Because Stark says when they're booting him up, which is another great scene,
Yeah.
when they're booting up the Iron Man suit, he's like, make sure the checkpoints are clear before you follow me through. So the idea was Iron Man would be the frontal assault, and Jensen would come in behind.
No, Jensen would be the frontal assault.
Well, that's what they did.
Hulking Iron Man behind him.
But then, if Iron Man's going to leave the cave and immediately burn everything to the ground, Jensen's stuck in the cave while everything's exploding.
I told you he'd jump on his back.
The suit barely flew with one person. He can't fly with Jensen in it.
Jensen's pretty scrawny.
That's true. He probably could have made it. What do you think about the death of Jensen?
It's very sad.
His emotional scene.
It's very, very sad.
Yeah.
I don't think Jensen needed to do what he did.
You don't think?
No. He could have just, like, shot them from inside
He could have stayed at the door. Yeah. Because he didn't actually do very efficient shooting.
No, he's like he's like shooting into the air the whole time.
Yeah. But I feel like he's the kind of guy that wouldn't want to kill people. As a doctor, he's the kind of person who wants to save lives. He would just
help Tony Stark build a murder suit.
He thought it was all non-lethal. Stark was just sticking missiles on it while he wasn't looking. No, you make a good point. But also he's a man who's seen the cost of this war. He's had his entire family killed in front of him and his village ravaged.
Yeah.
And he understands that war is bad for people.
But he's just helped Tony Stark build them.
Yeah, right.
Murder pajamas. What happens next? Oh, he gets rescued by some guys, and the guy says, "Ooh, how's the fun V now? And I would, even though it's 3 months later, he still remembers the fun Vietnam Drumby.
And it's the first thing he says. He's like, Tony, I'm so glad to see you alive. He's like, how's the fun way? Did it explode? I told you should have ridden with me.
Vietnam Drumby.
Yes. I don't think, though, that if Rhodey had been in that Humvee with him...
It wouldn't have made a difference.
No, not at all. So then they go back... Oh, and he calls a press conference, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And everyone sits down.
Yeah.
Apparently it was another Robert Downey Jr.
Because Robert Downey Jr. has never seen a press conference before. He thinks everyone sits on the floor.
They got the whole scene ready, and all the actors were standing up, and Robert Downey Jr. was like, alright, can everyone just sit down? And all the extras sat down, and then the director called cut, because they had to relight the entire scene for everyone at like 3 feet lower than they would have been. And then what happens?
He announces that Stark Industries Global Defense Corporation is no longer going to make weapons.
They're putting all their missiles in the bin.
Yeah.
And now what they're going to do instead, we don't know.
We don't know. Obadiah.
Oh no, then they have that chat about arc reactor technology, don't they?
Oh yeah.
Sorry, you were going to say.
Well, Obadiah keeps saying, there's a lot more to Stark Industries than weapons, you know. But there clearly isn't.
Right at the beginning when he's talking to the journalist, he's like, oh, are you going to report on all the smart crops that we make or things like that? But they're never shown in the movie.
That could just mean that it's derived from their technology that they made for military application.
Plant this missile and you have delicious smart
You know what I mean?
No, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Oh, this is another great scene in this movie. He starts designing the suit, like his new suit.
Mm.
And you see him build all the parts and he tests each different individual bit.
This is my first comment about his bad engineering.
I'm ready.
So when he's testing the leg thrusters, right?
Yep.
He says he's going to use 10% of the thrust
Yep.
and see if he can take off with that. Which means that either he doesn't know how much thrust his leg thrusters generate,
Yep.
or he doesn't know what the conditions are to take off. Because all he needs to do is see how much thrust does those leg thrusters make,
Yep.
which he built.
Yep.
Take 10% of that number, and is it more or less than how much he weighs? But no, he can't do that.
He just straps
That's
them to
beyond his capabilities.
He straps them to his legs. He flies straight into a wall.
Yeah.
I have a theory that all the people in the Marvel Cinematic Universe are like humans, but they're much more durable.
Yes.
Because they, in all the movies, they endure things that no one else could endure. The thing I really like about this movie is that it shows the progression of his suits. And you can, obviously you can't see every single part, but you can see how he's building it and where his ideas are coming from, and that he makes errors in the process of doing it. I know all of it's impossible technology, but I like the idea that we see how it's built up and you get the idea of roughly where everything is in the suit. Because his suits in the recent movies are just, they're insane.
Yeah.
They've
got everything.
Every conceivable thing. And how can they be put in the 3 centimetres between Robert Downey Jr.'s body and the outside of the suit? But yeah, in this one, it feels more believable. Apparently, the mantra of this movie was realism. No, what was it? No, it wasn't realism. What was it? There was a word that Jon Favreau had over the door of his office, and he looked at it every day when he walked in and when he walked out. And when people came in for meetings, he'd point them to that word. And what was it? Plausibility. That was it. So it doesn't have to be doable, but it has to be plausible. So the fact that in Civil War, Iron Man has a fire extinguishing system in the 3 centimetres of his suit, not plausible. But the fact that he basically just has some big boots and a missile in his arm and a flare, like some flares in his hips,
flare,
and those little shoulder guns.
We'll get on to the flares later.
Because in Civil War, he has in his arm, forearm, he has in the final fight with Captain America, he has handcuffs that he fires out,
doesn't he? It's really specific.
And then I don't know whether it's the same arm or if it's the other arm, but then he has a missile later on in that fight scene in the forearm. So you don't want to get those arms mixed up. Captain America, you will be restrained. I have made a terrible error today. Yes. So in my very rambly way, I'm trying to say I like this movie.
Yep.
Do you like all the building and suiting up stuff?
I think you could argue that they linger on it a bit too much. Whenever he makes a new suit, that you get basically 3 or 4 dramatic times when he's dramatically suiting up. I'm okay, we've had this before.
Yeah. So then he builds himself a suit.
He does.
And is this before or after he has the arc reactor replaced? I can't remember.
It must be after.
I think he has the arc reactor replaced and then he does his first flight. So Pepper Potts comes in and she sticks her hand into Robert Downey Jr.'s chest.
He very specifically says, "Don't touch the wire on the side."
Yep.
And she immediately touches the wire to the side as hard as she can.
And then she pulls out the magnet and they just never put another one in.
I assume there's another magnet on the bottom of the other one.
But he stresses that it's very important that she doesn't pull out the magnet.
I think because they would have to do it very quickly. He wants to spend time to refill on it.
Yeah. Do you know how they did that scene?
They actually drilled a hole in the
He goes very method. No, they prosthetic chest with a big old hole in it. And Robert Downey Jr. was in the chair that he looked like he was sitting on, which is great. And so
it's like Alien.
Yes! He took a note out of Ridley Scott's book and shoved an actor in an item of furniture. So then he goes to his first flight, in Mark II Iron Man suits.
Yep.
That's a scene, isn't it?
It is a scene.
This is my third favourite scene in this movie.
Oh.
I love this scene as well.
I have another comment about his engineering in this
I'm ready.
scene. Well, the film would have us believe, even though it's clearly not the case, that he's like the best engineer who ever lived.
Yeah.
But he's building something to fly very high and very fast, and doesn't once consider icing.
No, he doesn't.
Which is a major problem that any engineer would tell you about is a big problem. But no, it doesn't cross his mind.
No.
Doesn't cross Obadiah Stane's mind either, or anyone who works for him.
No.
They're all useless. They've just hired the worst engineers. They've hired the worst engineers they can find, so then Tony Stark looks good by comparison. That's what they've done.
And also he solves the icing problem, but we're never told how.
Heat.
Just apply some heat. There's a little hairdryer going in there.
Yeah.
Oh, I was going to... head-up display. The shot of Robert Downey Jr. in the mask was inspired by 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Oh, yeah. It is. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
And there was a thing, like a half-hour thing on the visual effects of Iron Man, and at least 15 minutes were dedicated to these people telling you in incredible detail every part of the head-up display, which they'd completely over-engineered. No, I think it's good, though. I really like the head-up display and that camera angle right up in his face.
I don't think that head-up display would be useful. I think it's too clutters.
Yeah?
There's too much going on. You can't
fair enough.
see what you're trying to see.
You can't see what you're looking at. Also, it would be way too close to your face.
I don't think that would be the problem.
No?
Because like modern fighter jets have that on the helmets. But they're also well-designed and streamlined so that you're not bombarded with too much information at once. The whole point of it is that you can get the information you want to get very quickly.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's something like that, you'd have to like search through it. And
going through the menus. Yeah. It also spends a lot of time telling him things he already knows. Like, taken damage. Yes, I know.
I felt it.
Also, presumably, he's got some kind of display showing him what's happening outside that we can't see.
Yeah, he's just blind. He can't see it.
Out of the 3 Iron Man suits, which is your favourite of the movie?
In what sense? Like,
which one do you like the best?
But like, do you mean which one would I most like to have, or what?
Fine. You can answer this question as many ways as you like. It's very vague.
I think the development of the first one is the best one.
Yeah.
But that's just because, I mean, of course it would be.
Yeah.
Is the only difference between the Mark II and the Mark III the colour and the icing?
Yes.
They're basically the same. Because
also...
like, I can't distinguish 3 suits in that. There's only really 2.
Well, I don't know what the second one is made of, but it's between 2 and 3 that he decides to go with the gold titanium.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
So it must be made of something rubbish.
Yeah.
Maybe it's actually made of iron.
So 3, the third one, is objectively better than the second one in every way.
Yes. But the second one was just
So the second one is the worst one.
The second one's just him getting the technology and putting it all into a suit. And the third one would be him refining it.
I mean, clearly the third one is the best one.
Yeah. But I'm just, which one's your favourite?
The first one. It's got the most character.
That's why I like it. I like that it's all stitched together out of bits of parts of stuff.
Well, the third one would also be put together out of bits.
No, it's just a one-part machine.
He mined that out of the ground.
So, anything else to say on the flight scene, or not?
No, I've trashed his engineering enough for now.
I think it speaks well to his recklessness, though. Because he does this, and Jarvis is like, look, there's so many calculations I should be doing. And he's like, no, I've got to go for a flight.
What could Jarvis need to do?
I think Jarvis has only just been imported into the Iron Man suit. And then he does that flap test, where all the parts of the suit... I'd really love that shot. All the parts of the suit move, and it shows you all the capabilities of all of them. And then Jarvis is like, okay, we should power down now, and I'll check that all that's okay. And Tony's like, no, we go for a flight.
But I don't know what Jarvis wants to do.
I assume this is the first time that suit has been assembled.
I think it's the first time that Jarvis has been put in the suit.
Yeah.
But he can still access the suit from outside, you know?
Yeah. What for next? I'm very lost.
Then he crashes into his house.
He does. He falls straight to the ceiling, doesn't he? Onto his car.
Piano and then his cars.
Yes. And then...
Is that when Obadiah comes clean about locking him out of the company?
Oh, he crashes his own party, doesn't he?
No,
I think that's in there.
Then,
I think that's in the
then
middle.
that comes in, yeah.
And he goes, he has a nice dance with Clever Potts. And then he talks to Obadiah Stane.
Talks to Agent Coulson.
He does. I'm a big fan of Agent Coulson.
Who it takes ages to work out that the company can be reduced to what company, the organisation has the acronym SHIELD.
Yeah, even though they've used it in the past in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Like in the future movies, you realise they use it in the past.
That's
so
true.
I think it's just... That's his way of trying to keep SHIELD a secret organisation. Instead of saying SHIELD, he says what it stands for, because no one will remember that.
Coulson wants to interview him.
Yeah.
And then he's just like, okay, bye. I'm going to talk to my secretary now.
That implies that SHIELD were watching him when he was
Well,
escaping.
all Coulson says is they want to debrief him.
About the nature of his escape.
Yeah.
But that means they must know that his escape was of a significant nature. I don't know.
Although just having him escape is a bit suspicious. Well, not like suspicious, but he must have done something.
Oh, Tony Stark
Special.
escaped from the clutches of the terrorists. A weapons manufacturer manufactured a weapon with all those weapons they gave him. Something suspicious is afoot.
But anyway, yes, then he goes, talks to his secretary.
Yep.
They
Dance.
dance. He goes to get her a drink.
Never comes.
Never comes back.
He gets distracted by the journalist.
Yep.
She confronts him about
With some
more
pictures.
terrorism.
Yeah.
And then Tony Stark goes to confront Obadiah Stane.
Yep.
He's like, are we selling weapons as a weapons company?
And Obadiah Stane goes, ho, 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 je m'appelle over there.
He says, oh, Tony, of course we sell weapons. We're a weapons selling company.
Yeah.
I like how they have this very private conversation in front of a whole load of journalists.
While they're having their photos taken.
Yeah.
Well, it's because Tony's trying to have the conversation.
Yeah.
And Obadiah wants to distract him, so he's like, let's take some pictures. And then Tony just keeps talking anyway. Also, the blonde journalist lady is standing right behind them the whole time and can surely overhear them.
Yeah. But then he decides to do something about it. Well,
Yeah.
he suits up in his weird suit attaching station.
His suit attaching station.
Yeah.
You've got to come up with a better name for it.
Alright. The
suit.
suit application device. Acronym SAD.
Sad, yeah.
He steps into the SAD.
And we get another suiting up scene.
Yep.
Because we haven't had enough of those already.
You a fan of that or not?
I mean, like I said, it's another suiting up scene.
Yeah.
I kind of got bored of them by that point.
I prefer that, though, to what we have in the modern movies, where he can just step out of his suit at any time.
Yeah.
All the parts just open up.
Although that is a natural progression, though.
Yeah, but think of all the actuators you need in your suit just to open it up so that you can step out.
It also means he can get out of it without having to go back to Stark headquarters or his house or whatever.
Yeah.
Which film is it where they kind of have to go into hiding for a little bit?
Is it Age of Ultron? Is that what you're talking about?
Might be Age of Ultron, yeah.
Yeah.
But can you imagine if he had to go, he'd have to stay in his suit the whole time.
How good would that be?
Then he goes to Afghanistan again.
He does. He flies back there and then he punches some terrorists.
Gets shot down by the main gun of a tank.
Yes, he does.
While he's... the gunner in that tank
What?
must be really good.
What accuracy. Oh dear, that's another great scene in the movie where he's beating up the terrorists.
Yeah.
He kills several men with internal bleeding, presumably.
Kills Father Christmas.
He does.
Oh, doesn't kill them.
No, he gives him
He
back
gives
to the
him back to the
people.
yeah.
He shows off some of his gear, some of his kit. He's
Yeah.
using his repulsors. He's using the little
The little shoulder rockets.
shoulder shooty dude heads.
Dart things, yeah.
He's using Iron Man punches.
Yes.
He does a big kick, probably. I don't remember him doing a
That
big
would,
kick.
that would be really awkward in that suit as well.
It really would. And then he gets shot at quite a lot.
Yeah.
And then, yes, he has the tank scene, which is great.
Gets shot down by a tank.
Yes.
How?
I mean, you could assume that it was a different anti-aircraft gun that shot him down and he just landed near a tank.
Could be.
But that takes away from the fun of it.
Yeah.
And we have a little montage of him blowing up terrorism
Blowing up terrorism, yeah.
and killing missiles and stuff.
He seeks out his own weapons and destroys them.
Which is a really good way of doing business, because then they have to buy.
Then they have to buy more.
I think we found the real villain of this movie. Yeah, and then what happens?
F-22 scene.
We should call this episode Then What Happens.
Then what happens?
Yes, so he's flying back.
Yeah.
How long would it take you to fly from Los Angeles to the Middle East?
A long time.
Even at supersonic speeds?
A long time.
A very long.
A very long time. Several hours.
Doesn't sound comfortable, does it?
No.
In the Iron Man suit.
Well, how does he eat? He must be starving by the time he gets there.
They just cut out the bits where he kills a bunch of terrorists and has a little snack.
He stops off along the way. He goes to McDonald's on the way.
He could stop
on the East Coast for
Which way would you go around the world?
You'd probably go to the east, to the west actually, wouldn't you?
So you go over Europe or go over Russia to get back?
You'd probably go over. It's going to the west coast.
Yeah, it's going to LA.
So you'd probably go over Russia that way to the west.
So you'd stop off in Japan
and over
for a
China.
snack.
It'd be like going to China.
Stop off with Chinese food.
Yeah.
So then he flies. Oh yeah, we have the F-22 scene.
Yeah.
It's a good scene.
It's not a good scene.
What? No. Tell me more.
Well, first of all, the HUD symbology on the F-22 is all wrong.
Right.
Because it's all like flashing red. It's again, what films always do this. They always clutter heads-up displays too much.
Yeah.
And there's like too much going on. It's like you can't tell what's happening. And then the F-22s for some reason don't just shoot him down from like 50 miles away with a missile.
No, they have to get right up close.
Get right up close to him. And then he defeats a heat-seeking missile with flares without maneuvering at all. Whereas modern heat-seeking missiles are pretty good against flares.
Yeah.
And you have to do some pretty heavy maneuvering as well. But apparently no.
This must be an old-timey missile.
On a really modern plane.
They're like, oh, Stark Industries has stopped making missiles. We'll have to use the old ones from the basement. From Barry's bargain basement.
Barry's bargain basement missile.
Buy your missiles today. I do like the stuff in the control room, how confused everyone is, though.
Yeah.
If they, saw something in flight, they didn't know what it was, would protocol be to immediately engage it?
It depends.
Because Iron Man doesn't attack them in any way.
The US had the radars on their planes, the F4, was really, really good for the time.
Right.
But they completely negated it by saying you have to visually identify something before you shoot it. So it depends what bonkers rules the US have come up with to hinder their troops as much as possible.
They got real mad because the guy wasn't replying to radio contact.
Yeah.
Because presumably Iron Man didn't build a radio into his suit.
It's just a telephone.
He does have a telephone, but he doesn't have a radio. I enjoy him hiding on the belly of one of the planes. That's pretty great.
Yeah.
I don't have any effects things to say about this.
I assume the F-22s were CGI.
I assume
they didn't actually destroy.
No. Do you like how earlier on in the movie Tony Stark is like, hey Rhodey, you should come and be my mate and we should do this together?
Yeah.
And Rhodey's like,
no.
And then Tony's like...
And then later on he becomes War Machine.
Yep.
Discount Iron Man.
In pre-production, they were thinking about making War Machine the villain of the movie.
Really?
Yeah. That was one of the considerations. They went from the Mandarin, and they went to War Machine, and they went to some other guy who's just a guy in a big Iron Man suit. And then they went to Obadiah Stane. Because they were always going to have Stane in there, but I think originally they were going to have him in there to set him up for a future movie. But, I mean, it makes sense to use him immediately.
I like Stane.
I like him
as
well.
He's my favourite character in the film, possibly.
I think he's one of the...
Except for the other guy in the cave. Jensen, yeah.
He's one of the better Marvel villains, I think. Because a lot of them are very
He's not the villain. He's trying to save his company. See, he was with Tony Stark's father. He's been with this company since the beginning.
Yep.
And then young upstart Tony Stark comes along, gets some hippie notions about stopping war, decides to ruin the company. Obadiah Stane's doing the best for his company. Obadiah Stane's the real hero of this film.
He does go mad, though.
No, he doesn't.
Halfway through, he's like, right, I'm going to do lots of murders.
He murders some terrorists. That's good.
But then he attempts to murder Tony Stark. And then
yes, because he's ruining the company and there's no other way to get rid of him.
And then
he's being really selfless. Tony Stark's his best friend, but he puts the good of the company first. And he decides he's going to kill his best friend. It's a tragic story of betrayal.
He doesn't have to kill him because they're locking him out of the company, Batman Begins style.
Yeah, but what if Tony Stark comes back and Batman Begins style? He goes away, lives in prison for several years, learns martial arts,
becomes a Batman.
Yeah.
He goes crazy at the end, and he's like, I love this suit, and then he My favourite bit of the end scene fight is they're on the highway and he just pulls a motorbike out from a guy who is riding a motorbike.
Like, it doesn't make a difference if he hits him with the motorbike or his hand.
No, and the guy's just driving past and he's just like, whoop! Right. The guy flies out of frame and then he whacks Iron Man with a motorbike. That's my favourite bit of that fight.
You know my favourite bit of the end scene?
Yeah.
Is when Iron Man is hanging from the ceiling.
Yes.
And Stain is trying to shoot him with the missiles.
Yes.
And just keeps missing.
Like, my targeting system is out.
So therefore, I can't just point my hand in the right direction. I have to point it off to the side.
I'll just shoot that air conditioning unit over there. Yeah, are we going straight to the end fight? Or I feel like
we've missed a lot. We've missed lots of businessing.
Yes.
There's the bit where Obadiah tries to bribe Tony with pizza.
Yes.
Because doesn't he say, he says, I can't remember what he said, but he says, like, you have to get the company to build weapons again. And Tony goes, no. And Stain goes, well, then you can't have any of this pizza.
That's literally what happens.
And then later on, like 5 minutes later, says, Tony goes down to the basement.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, take a slice of pizza with you. Take two.
Yeah. It's a goodwill.
It's a gesture. See, he's reaching out a hand in friendship, and Tony Stark slaps it away.
So I think then we get to the scene where he takes the arc reactor from Tony. No. First they have the hacking scene where Pepper Potts goes and does the hacking. Office. And it's all revealed that he's the villain all along, and I really like that scene.
Whose office is that?
It's Stain's office.
So why is he not perplexed that Pepper Potts is in his office at his computer?
Because she's an assistant. She's assisting. I don't know. I feel like he plays it cool because he doesn't want to run in there and show that he's a madman.
But I think that being in your office at a computer is justification enough to at least ask some questions like, why are you at my computer?
But she seems to have unrestricted access to pretty much everything.
Yeah.
She can get into Tony Stark's basement. She can get into like the offices anywhere with her pass. She can get into Sector 16 under the arc reactor.
Well, she can't get into Sector 16 with her pass.
But she's surprised that she can't. Which means that usually she can. I really like that scene though. It's tense.
Because you're never quite sure how much Obadiah Stane knows about what she's doing. And how much he knows that she knows.
Yeah. And I prefer that to a scene where he just runs in and is like, what are you doing on my computer?
Yeah.
And then he throws a bomb at her.
No, it's Tony Stark's office.
Is it?
Because he gets I assume it's whiskey.
Yeah.
And he drinks it and he goes, Tony always gets the good stuff.
You're right. Now it makes sense. We never see him in that office.
So now it makes sense why he's not confused that he's at the computer.
Yeah.
Because it's Tony Stark's computer, so...
Yep.
Yeah.
But then at the end he has a...
So the question should be, why is he in the office?
So why...
Especially because he comes in, takes some whiskey, talks to Pepper Potts a bit, and then leaves. So he came to Tony Stark's office, presumably to get some whiskey.
Yeah. But then, why are all the files on that computer, or is it just on the?
I think it's like the company server.
Okay.
In which case, why does she even know? Oh, maybe she needs like a computer with like a lot of access,
or a computer in the business, because his house presumably wouldn't be connected to the business.
And also, why does she need the USB to?
Because that's got all the hacking on it.
I thought that was just to get to like log in. Can't Tony Stark just tell her the login details for his computer?
But not for Stain's login stuff. Not for his part of the... Yeah.
Yeah, it must have been a company computer.
Yeah.
And she's accessing Stain's files on the company. Yeah.
There we are. Mystery solved, people.
Mystery solved.
We worked out whose computer it was, whose office it was, and how she memory sticked the files or something.
Yeah.
Did you like how, when the files flash up, the one with an Iron Man suit on it is labelled Ultra Secrets? Stain's Ultra Secret files.
Don't look at this, guys.
Yeah. So then she leaves, and Stain has a little peek at the computer.
Yeah.
And realises that there's been a big old download.
Yeah.
And that he's rumbled.
He's rumbled, yeah.
So she goes and she bumps into Phil Coulson.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Best character, Phil Coulson.
Yes.
He's the Jensen of the second half of the movie.
He is. Right. He replaces Jensen.
Yeah.
I like, probably, overall...
Yeah.
Phil Coulson might be my favourite Marvel character.
I agree.
Of all, yeah.
I really like him. He's such a great character.
Yeah.
I think they're trying to make Martin Freeman's character in like Civil War, and he's in Black Panther as well. They're trying to make him into the new Phil Coulson, I think. I don't think he's as good.
No.
Have you seen any of the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. TV show?
I've seen a couple of episodes. That's it.
What do you think?
I don't remember. It was a while ago.
Yeah, that sums it up.
Yeah.
I watched most of the first season. I think I watched all of the first season.
Yeah.
And it was fine, but I couldn't tell you any of the things that happen in it. Apparently it's got good now. Apparently it's real good.
Yeah.
Because it's got like a whole load of superheroes in it now. They put Ghost Rider in there.
I might get back into it.
I don't know if I've got time for 5 seasons of it. But Agent Coulson is great.
Agent
That's
Coulson
the,
is great.
that's the point
the
of this story.
point.
Yeah.
So she goes off with Coulson. Pepper Potts goes off with Coulson.
Yeah. She's like,
Meanwhile, Stain rushes back to the arc reactor.
wait, is this before or after he steals Tony Stark's heart?
Doesn't Tony Stark tell her to get the files just after she replaces his thing?
I think it's files.
Hmm.
Then Stain realizes he's rumbled, and he goes to Stark because Stark gets a phone call from Potts, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And Pepper's like, "Hey, it's Obadiah Stane. He's insane. He's making an Iron Man suit. He's gonna do murders."
Right. Yeah.
And Stain like paralyzes him just so he can hear all that stuff, but he can't reply. And clearly that thing doesn't work down phone lines because otherwise, yeah. So then he does another maniacal speech. The villains in this movie love their maniacal speeches.
Villains in general love their speeches.
Yeah. And Stain's like, "You golden egg and golden goose."
You are the golden egg and you laid a golden goose.
Truly, you are the prodigal son, and I am your prodigal father, and arc reactor for me, please. So he takes the arc reactor,
Yep.
he plucks it from his chest.
That's another thing. He has very little knowledge about how miniaturized arc reactor technology works, right?
Yeah.
Yet he's able to immediately plug the miniaturized arc reactor into his suit and it works perfectly.
Yeah. He must have had the right adapter. He also doesn't know how much power that kind of thing generates.
It just plugs into the USB slot or something.
Yeah. So he goes and gets in his suit, presumably, dresses up.
Yeah.
And Pepper Potts and Philip Coulson... Oh no, Tony Stark goes to his basement first, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And he uses the other arc reactor, which...
For some reason, the Air Force guy is there?
Oh, Tony rings him after his...
Right.
I remember watching this and thinking, I didn't remember how it all worked, but it all came together very nicely, and now I can't remember how it all came together very nicely.
The thing is, though, Obadiah Stane and Coulson and Pepper Potts all start off in the same building, right?
Stane and Potts are in the same building, yeah.
Then Stane goes to Tony Stark's house
To get the arc reactor.
and then goes to the main arc reactor building, Sector 16.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Coulson and Potts go directly from the office to Sector 16, yet somehow arrive after Stane.
But then they are met by backup, aren't they? So I reckon they waited for backup.
Maybe.
Because there's like 4...
There's a
no,
couple
I know how
guys.
many agents there
There's
are.
6.
Because Terrence Howard, amazing mathematician, says there's 5 agents, but actually there's 6. Did you spell that?
I noticed that, but I assumed it meant them plus Coulson.
But he's an agent. He's an agent in his name.
Yeah. That's what, if you base your system of arithmetic after 1 times 1 equals 1.
That's what you get.
1 times 1. You should base it off 1 times 1 equals 1. If you base it off 1 times 1 equals 2,
you get
this is what you get.
5 agents, not 6. So he calls Terrence Howard and he's like, "Rhodey, Pepper's in danger." Does he do anything in the final?
Rhodey?
Yeah.
He keeps the skies clear. He cuts off that man's telephone conversation.
He
That's
does.
what he does.
He does. I'd forgotten that. And then he's like, "Just a regular training exercise." Which is a joke he had with Tony Stark earlier.
I always think they will just go along with that because they know he's with the experimental weapons people. So it's like, yes, we're testing our experimental weapons, so we'll just go along with it.
So he does do something.
Yeah.
Which I'd forgotten. So Tony Stark rocks up. No, Pepper Potts rocks up to Sector 16. And this a detail I'd forgotten, but I really like, is that they all walk in and they see the Iron Man Mark 1 suit that Stane has, and they're like, "Oh, must be the suit he's building," because none of them know, which is, they don't expect a massive suit. Well, they don't expect it. They don't see it coming, but it does. It pops out of the chest.
It does.
I don't know why there's all those dangly chains.
It's very
down
well
there.
hidden.
It is
For giant.
for something with a massive torch in the centre. I can't believe I haven't said this yet, but the effects of Iron Man effects were done by Stan Winston
Oh, nice.
and his studios. I saw
We
him.
do everything.
Yeah, they did Jurassic Park. They did Terminator 2. I think they did a whole load of good stuff.
Yeah.
And I saw a video with Stan Winston. This was the last one he did before he died.
Oh.
And he was like, "Yeah, I don't really do anything anymore. I just come in and tell everyone they're doing a good job, and I make sure my name's on everything, and then I leave." He built a 3-meter high ironmonger that you could pop Jeff Bridges in if you so desired. Like,
He didn't know that Jeff Bridges was the actor. He decided.
But it was animatronic.
Yeah.
And it had movie arms and
That's quite
flail
cool.
about. And they also made a miniature for some of the wide shots. And they did the main Iron Man stuff as well.
Yeah.
So, yes. Stan Winston, everybody. We should do a Stan Winston special.
We should. We've got a lot planned out, though, so it's going to be a while.
We should add it to the list. So, what happens next?
We're about to have the giant punch-up.
Basically, Obadiah Stane at least paralyzes and probably kills 5 agents.
Yeah.
Where does Phil end up in that scene?
I know. I guess he just runs away.
He probably gets in the Mark 1 and there's a fight that got a cat out. Yeah. That's what I reckon. No, he's probably tending to the wounds of those agents.
In the Mark 1 suit.
Yes! So then Tony Stark rocks up
He does.
to save the day. Do you know this?
Using the basic arc reactor, not the fancy one.
Yes. That's another thing I love about this movie. At all points, the hero is at a disadvantage.
But, so, he's imminently about to run out of power, right?
Yeah.
And it gets to the point where his power, it says he's on emergency power.
Yeah.
And yet he still fights for like another 5 minutes after that. With apparently as effective systems as he had before.
Yeah. But I like that he's always at a disadvantage.
Except when he's killing those terrorists.
Except when he's killing those terrorists. That's when he's in his prime. But, like, in the first scene with Mark 1, his suit is cobbled together and bits of it break, bits of it fall off. And then in the last scene, he's losing power and then he like, takes the glove off halfway through the scene. He's not relying on the suit to do everything for him. He's having to use his wit as
If
well
you
as the suit.
rely on the suit, you don't deserve the suit.
Yes.
Spider-Man Homecoming, 2017.
Excellent work, Will. But what I was going to say is, initially...
If you're nothing without the suit, that's what he says.
You shouldn't have it. That's it. Yes. I'll edit it so that you just say the right one. So initially, Tony Stark... I don't understand how this would have worked, but Tony Stark was going to drive... So the Ironmonger would be on the highway, and he was going to drive down the highway in his Audi R8 and crash into his suit, like in the car. And the car would do a big old flip and spiral out down the highway, and it would have been an awesome stunt. But they were using Audi R8s, and they tried this several times, and they couldn't get the car to flip. Like, using all their stunt stuff, the car was so well built and stable that they couldn't make it do this mad flip. That's the reason Tony Stark drives Audis in every other movie, because the crew was so impressed at how well built this car was. They're like, Tony Stark would drive this car. It's well engineered.
Tony Stark wouldn't drive it then.
He'd drive a Citroen 2CV.
He'd drive like a Lion Robin or something.
But I don't understand how that would work, because he surely...
What, a Lion Robin?
No, I mean, how would he be driving the car in the suit?
Well, why not? I mean, the suit's fairly flexible. Like,
No,
fairly...
you can't drive in an Iron Man suit. What would be the point?
You can.
But why wouldn't you just fly there?
Well, maybe it's to save power, because he's on the...
That actually makes perfect sense. Good job, Will. You've ended this movie. So then they have a big old fight.
They do.
And he flies up in the air and he's like, how do you solve the icing problem? And Obadiah Stane's like, oh no, there's an icing problem.
Engineer. Building a flying thingy.
Yep.
Didn't consider ice.
But we never see him hit the ground, so I assume he did solve the icing problem.
Well, he didn't. Doesn't mean he recovered before he hit the ground like Iron Man did.
No, yeah. I don't know why he didn't assume that Obadiah Stane would recover as well. So then they have a big old punch.
Yeah.
And he's like, Pepper, you've got to overload the arc reactor. And she's like, but you'll die. And then she does it, he doesn't.
She does it anyway, and she doesn't die, yeah.
Also, there's a giant blue beam of light that flies into the sky for no apparent reason.
Oh.
I don't understand.
It's built to discharge upwards. So that if you're on the roof, you'll get screwed.
I reckon up and down, so there's a massive hole.
A massive crater.
Yeah. Did you like Obadiah Stane's death? Where he just stands there and wiggles his arms about all day?
Oh. Ignore that. It's nothing important, probably. It's too far away anyway.
I can't even see it.
It's on the
there it is.
table. Goodbye. Who was it anyway?
Alright, I'm going to skim my notes while you're doing that.
No, that's fine.
Because we're at the end of the movie now.
Yeah.
Oh no, we haven't got to the end of the movie, obviously, because there's two very important big things that happen left in the movie. Yes!
Oh, the I am Iron Man.
I am Iron Man.
Yeah.
Apparently all the extras were told that it was a dream sequence, so that they didn't spoil it online.
What is there to spoil?
But he reveals his identity at the end.
It's basically normal now in Marvel.
Yeah.
That everybody knows their real identities.
But I mean, before that, you'd have had your Batman and your X-Men and your Spidermen, and all of them have their secrets. The other big scene at the end.
What's the other big scene at the end?
The after credits scene. If we talk
scene?
while you're clicking, the clicking will be clicking.
Oh, right.
That's what I'm just thinking.
I forgot about the after credits scene. I forgot to watch that. We're efficient. There you go.
So anyway, well, the other big scene is the after credits scene. Would you like to tell everyone what happens in the after credits scene?
I just told you I forgot about it and didn't watch it.
All right, Tony Stark, he walks into his house, and Nick Fury is there.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, I think you're the only superhero in the world, and I'm here to talk to you about the Avenger Initiative, coming out April 2012. Apparently, they filmed the Nick Fury cameo with like a skeleton crew with as few people as possible. But rumours of it still appeared on the internet.
Yeah.
So Kevin
Bacon.
So John Favreau cut it out of the press screenings.
Oh.
So all the press were really confused. And then obviously put it back in for the theatrical.
Yeah.
Which is great. And yes, then the end of the movie. I had a thing to say. Oh yes, apparently Paul Bettany, who plays Jarvis, recorded for 2 hours and got paid an obscenely large amount of money.
I know why I have Horn written down.
Why do you have Horn written down?
It's during the fight scene on the freeway.
Yeah.
And they're like fighting in the middle of the road.
Yes.
And a woman drives up in her car. There's two giant suits fighting each other, and she just blows her horn.
Yeah. As if
they're just gonna suddenly stop and go, oh sorry, we're in the way. And move over to the side. Oh, here's another fun fact.
Go on.
You know, at the end, just before the press conference, Tony Stark is reading the newspaper.
Yes.
You can see in the paper there's a picture of Iron Man. Huh? That picture is from a video that was shot by some amateur filmmakers who were filming the Iron Man film being shot. Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
They were like hiding in some bushes next to the Iron Man set, I think.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah, here's another thing I noticed.
Go on.
Obadiah's suit, right? He builds the suit in the basement, basically.
Yep. But
apparently he didn't build any way to get the suit out. So he just goes through the ceiling.
He didn't, did he? What a masterful engineer. Do you think he was building that for the military, or was he just building it for his own entertainment?
I think he was building it to sell it. Like I said, he has the best interest of the company at heart.
Yeah. Alright, Will. It's time for our famous segments. Best effect, worst effect. Wow, that was new.
That was seamless.
It was beautiful. So, Will, what do you think was the best effect?
The best effect?
Yes.
So, I've pointed out the many inaccuracies in this scene.
Yep.
But nevertheless, it does have fighter jets in it. So I'm going to have to pick my best effect as the F-22 chase.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Because I love the F-22 very much.
This movie has a lot of very good scenes.
Yeah. You have to pick a worst effect.
I have to pick a best effect first.
Yeah.
Best effect, Mark 1 suit, cave, escape scene. Yeah. I mean, not the flying bit. The bit when he's in the cave and he's just
chit-chatting,
menacingly chasing down those terrorists.
Yeah.
Like the bit when he's punching through the door. That's great. It's brilliant. Well done, everyone involved.
I have a worst effect.
A worst effect, tell me.
Yeah. The other guy in the cave, what's his name again? I keep forgetting. Jensen's death.
Why is that your worst effect?
Because Jensen died.
Oh no. It's the saddest moment.
That's my worst effect.
I can't really think of many bad effects in this movie. I don't understand why there's a massive blue light flying into this guy at the end when the arc reactor explodes.
That's because that's how the arc reactor overloads, Joe.
The big arc.
That's something I noticed about this film, right?
Yeah.
So I've pointed out several times how Tony Stark is actually a bad engineer.
Yes.
All the examples that they give of him being a good engineer are of stuff that are fictitious, and so the audience can't understand. And so we're sort of asked to take it on good faith that these things that they're talking about that are fictitious are really impressive.
Yeah.
But anything that he does that the audience can actually, that is real, like the icing, the flares, the calculating the thrust of his feet, all of that's really bad. So anything that we can really judge whether he's a good or a bad engineer points to him being a bad engineer. So I think he's actually a really terrible engineer. All this other stuff that they're talking about, the fancy fictitious words, I reckon that's just really simple stuff.
But then there is that scene where Stain is talking to the other scientists.
As I said,
about the arc reactor.
I reckon they hired terrible engineers to make Tony Stark look better.
Tony Stark, well, there's in a cave!
With a box of scraps.
I'm not Tony Stark.
Yeah.
And Stain's like, oh, sorry.
I've forgotten my glasses. But anyway, yes, your worst effects.
I think the big arc reactor is a bit ropey.
Yeah?
Because it's just a big twinkly lights. I was a toss-up between that and Obadiah Stain's death. Where he just goes, and wiggles his arms about in an electrical storm.
I'm trying to think of other dodgy effects.
Most of them are very good, though.
There was nothing that I saw as I was watching it and thought that a dodgy effect. Yeah.
The main issue with like animating like shiny stuff is getting all the reflections to look right.
Yeah.
But apparently they built an actual Mark II suit, put Robert Downey Jr. in it, and then for that shot where all the stuff is moving, they filmed it to get all the lighting references, and then completely recreated it in the computer so it could do all the movements, and then like use the lighting on the lenses. Clever. So the fact that they blended the practical and the digital is, I think, why it is so seamless.
So what is your worst effect? Big arc reactor.
Yeah, big arc reactor.
No love for the real MVP of the film.
Jensen's barely counts as an effect.
But it's so sad.
I mean, it had an effect on me.
Yeah, it had an effect on me.
It had the worst effect on me. Alright. Jennifer Lawrence.
I think we need to explain this section more, because we kind of always just
say
jump off into it. So people who haven't been listening since the first one, because we explained it in the first one.
Okay.
We haven't talked about it. People will be very confused if
I leave the explanation to you.
No, you have to explain it.
We recast one person in the film as Jennifer Lawrence.
Yeah. Sometimes we change the film a lot.
Yep.
In order to accommodate putting Jennifer Lawrence in it.
Yep. Sometimes we make her a major character, sometimes just a background extra. So, any suggestions?
Well, I mean, normally you pitch them to me.
Alright, well, Jensen is the obvious choice.
No, but he dies, Joe. There are rules. They can't die, and they can't be romantically involved with anyone.
Alright, then Agent Coulson.
That's a good shout, actually. That's an excellent choice.
How about Jensen, but instead of him dying, he's like, he gets lost in the cave. He goes down one of the wrong cave parts, and then he comes back as Agent Coulson having no memory of the cave.
Oh my goodness. That's perfect, Joe. Alright, I'll go with that.
I was going to pitch to you a few others.
No.
Like,
well, pitch me others. But you've come up with the best one already. But pitch some others.
That scientist that Obadiah Stane says...
No.
I can't think of anyone else who goes for with the rules. You've obviously got your Tony Starks and your Terrence Howards, but they're a bit boring.
Yeah.
You can have that Caesar he surprises in Caesar's palace. Oh, he gives that award to.
Random guy.
You could be Jarvis.
Jarvis? She could just do the voice of Jarvis. That's not a bad idea, actually.
There's not much of it, though, is there?
There's a fair bit.
He's scattered throughout, but for the first half of the movie, he's barely in there.
Because
he's in a cave, obviously.
I think the Jensen,
but he gets lost and loses his memory.
Gets lost and loses his memory is the best idea.
The scenario is it's Tony Stark escaping, but like the moment he leaves the room that he's captured in, S.H.I.E.L.D. blows a hole in the back of the cave and comes in to rescue him. So Jensen still gets shot, and Stark thinks he's dead, but S.H.I.E.L.D. are running, and they're like, Tony Stark, we've come to save you! And he can't hear because he's got the helmet on. So he takes out all the terrorists out the front, while S.H.I.E.L.D. come in the back, and they're like, Jensen! And they pick him up, and they take him away on a stretcher. Her away on a stretcher. And then she wakes up from a coma, not remembering who she is.
Becomes Agent Coulson.
That's
excellent. That might be the second best one we've done.
What's the best one we've done?
Apollo 13, obviously.
Oh, of course it is, yes. Alright, so, leaderboards.
Well, I think we should explain the Jennifer Lawrence section better, because we didn't explain it very well.
If you can come up with a snappy way to explain it,
I might.
Then I'll edit it in.
Yeah.
If you can make one, a little limerick about how it works. A rhyming couplet, or
I'll
maybe
have
a
to
rap.
think about it. I might record it separately and send it to you.
Alright, I'm on board.
Jennifer Lawrence is an actress.
The best actress. Well, we might want to mention the fact that on IMDb,
Yep.
everything with Jennifer Lawrence, I just rate 10.
So speaking of ratings,
Yeah.
where does this rate on your grand scale? Can you pull up the leaderboards? Because I haven't
Let
placed
me
mine
get the
yet.
leaderboards.
So yes, leaderboard section, we put all the movies we talk about on a leaderboard. This is number 10 on the leaderboard, so we'll have a top 10, Will.
Oh.
Yeah, I think
Let's
it's
see.
number 10. 1, 2, 3, 4,
Oh,
5,
this
6,
is-
7, 8, 9. Yes, so this will be the 10th.
This is easy to do, actually, for me.
Really?
Yeah.
So do you want to spray your list?
Spray my list.
Say your list is what I meant to say, but it came out as spray for some reason.
Well, okay, I'll read out mine first.
Go for it.
It goes Apollo 13 at the top.
Yep.
Jurassic Park, Blade Runner, Alien, Die Hard, Batman Begins, Jason and the Argonauts, Geriatric Argentinians, Spiderman, Superman.
Yes. Place yours and then I'll do mine.
I'm going to stick mine between Die Hard and Batman Begins. So it would be 3, 4, 5, it would be 6th.
So it would go...
Go below Die Hard. Then there'd be Die Hard, then Iron Man, then Batman Begins.
I agree. It's better than Iron Man and it's not as good as Die Hard. But my list...
Iron Man is better than Iron Man, is it?
Iron Man's better than Batman Begins. I agree with you, Will. Iron Man is better than
So
Batman.
you have to choose. You have Die Hard third.
Yes.
Then you have Alien and Blade Runner, then Batman.
Yes.
So where are you going to put it between in there? Do you think it's better than Blade Runner?
I do think it's better than Blade Runner.
Do you think it's better than Alien?
Now that's a tough one.
Come on,
it's
it's
not
not
better
better,
than
than Alien.
No, I don't think it is.
So you're
I think
putting
right.
it between Alien and Blade
So
Runner.
it's 5th on my list.
Yeah,
It's breaking up Ridley Scott's films.
it is.
He'd be furious.
Enraged.
Alien is very, very good. I haven't seen it for ages though. I haven't seen it since we did
Since
the
we
first
did it.
podcast.
That's not surprising, to be honest.
Yeah, but it
What
is
did-
surprising given that we recorded it in February last
We
year.
did record it a while ago, yeah.
Good grief, the podcast's a year old.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not properly a year old because we didn't release it until
Just
5 months ago.
5 months
We
ago.
sat on it for 6 months. But yeah, if you scroll all the way down our Twitter, you'll find that we recorded the first episode in very early February, I
Did
think.
you say scroll all the way down our Twitter as if we tweeted a lot?
That's a good point. We have not tweeted a lot. We should tweet
We should
more.
tweet more.
I feel we should also reply to these little comments that we get under the SoundClouds.
Yeah.
Because it's nice that people do that. Or
Yeah,
one person
a
has put all of
person-
them up so
A
far.
person has done that.
We should say thank you, Chris.
Our number one fan. Actually, it's his brother that did the artwork. So
Yeah.
she's our number one fan, maybe.
You mean sister?
Did I say brother?
You did say brother.
I meant sister. What was his comment for Die Hard?
Didn't I?
Oh no, he didn't. I've mistaken the thing for the thing.
He didn't do a comment.
He didn't
for
do
that.
a comment for that, no.
What a letdown.
Disgusting.
And he calls himself our biggest fan.
Does he?
I mean, we call him our biggest fan. But
Look at that.
yeah,
Lots of people have watched Jason under the...
it's a good one.
Yeah.
I mean, we wrote it, so we didn't write it. We don't write this. Please don't think that there's any production value in this.
We don't have a script or anything.
I mean, I have pages of notes.
I have a few notes.
I sometimes think the ones where I have more notes are the worst episodes.
You've got to get a balance because you don't want it to be too scripted.
Yeah. I'm trying to cram all my facts in there. Yeah. Alright, shall we wrap up?
Wrap up, yeah?
Yeah.
The
Is there
Batman
an
one,
Iron
so-
Man related voice you can do it in?
No, you can do it slightly muffled as if you were in a helmet.
Thank you for listening.
That's almost Bane.
It is almost Bane.
Of course! I'll just do it normally.
Alright.
I always build it up because I... Alright.
It's the same, I do the same with the intro. I feel like it has to be the best thing I've ever done.
Thank you for listening to Practically Effective. You can listen to us on SoundCloud, on iTunes, and YouTube. And we have Twitter at PracticallyFX, and we also have a Facebook page. And an email, practicallyeffective@gmail.com.
Yes, emails.
You can email us suggestions and artwork and
Yep.
stuff.
Literally anything
Just
you like.
talk to us, please.
Your bank details.
Your bank details if you want.
Yeah. So, what we do next week? It's a
Um,
special.
Oh my
It's a
goodness.
Jason Bourne special.
It's a Jason Bourne special because
Because, 2 reasons. Well, no, you go.
the new Jennifer Lawrence film is coming out. Red Sparrow.
Which is about spies and stuff.
It's about spies.
And all the Jason Bourne movies are the same, so we
Yeah.
didn't want to give them individual episodes.
But it's mostly because The new Jennifer Lawrence film is coming out.
Are we doing the are we just doing
There's a new
Bourne?
Jennifer Lawrence film coming out.
But, I
Joe.
mean, are we just
you haven't given this enough attention.
Yes, Will. There truly is a new Jennifer Lawrence film coming out.
Good.
Are we doing just the Bourne trilogy? We don't want to do the Jennifer.
We don't want to do the
Jennifer Renner. We don't want to do the Jeremy Renner one because that's not very good.
I haven't seen it, but I suspect it's terrible.
Saw it in the cinema and now I've forgotten everything.
I've heard it's terrible.
I think it was alright, but
I've heard that they basically have Jason Bourne being really buffoonish.
he's not in it.
No, not the guy who is basically Jason Bourne, but
Knock off Jason Bourne.
of Jason Bourne, yeah, the main character,
I don't know. Remember what his name was.
Basin John.
Basin Sean. It was Jennifer Renner. Yeah, so the Bourne trilogy.
Yeah,
I don't think anyone watches the movies before they listen to these podcasts, but now you know, people. You've got 2 weeks to watch the Bourne trilogy. I must remember to pick that up when I get home.
probably on some sort of streaming service.
So we're just going to do the first 3, yeah?
Yeah,
Awesome. I'm on board. Get ready, people. Get hyped for that. We always do the outro and then we talk a bit more, and then we don't have a final goodbye say thing. The truth is, I am a podcast.
you have a podcast.
Yes. I was trying to do an Iron Man thing, but it didn't work.
Well, let's wrap up.
Okay.
There's a new Jennifer Lawrence film coming out. It's going to be the best.
Goodbye, everyone.